Good evening, speedrunning fans. Good evening, Super Metroid fans. We're coming right back at you for another component of this showcase today for the GCC Memorial. My name is Professor School, here to take you through this Defeat Mother Brain run, performed by mm2nescartridge here, just getting started. And I'm joined in the commentary booth by none other than my great buddy, Kev Nassix. Kev, how's it going today?
It's going pretty great. I think this has been a wonderful memorial so far, and with all the crazy glitches and your general marathon luck that you're going to get. And I am absolutely in love with this sprite. I got to tell you, especially when spin jumping, with the space jump, and you see GCC on there, just very fitting so far. And this is a really, really interesting category. Another one of those categories that most people really aren't even aware that it exists. And I think when MM2 got the world record, I think was when it was brought to my attention that this was a real thing. And basically, Prof, what are we gonna do that makes this so interesting?
Yeah, so it's a cool category. It's pretty similar to something that a few folks might have a little bit more knowledge about, which is GT Spacetime, one of the more common GT categories. This is a little different though, and I'll talk about the differences when we actually get there. But the big difference between the Spacetime category and the Defeat Mother Brain category is that in one of them you're just trying to trigger the end sequence as quickly as possible and get out of dodge. So that's a much shorter category in the, let's say, 14-minute range. And then the Defeat Mother Brain category, you're actually trying to get away from the ship, not trigger the end sequence, and then break into G4 without defeating all of the bosses. So that's sort of the basic premise: break into G4 into Turian, and finish the game sort of normally, I guess. At that point, not exactly normal because of the way you got in, but you'll see some fun out of bounds movement, not nearly as much as the last run that we just witnessed, that really cool 0% showcase from Zost, but should be a lot of fun to check it out. I can't remember, Kev, have you, I know you've run some of the other GT categories. Have you actually run the GT Defeat Mother Brain category?
No, this one in 0% I haven't run. I've ran GT Space Time and all the other GT versions, but I'm one of those that is intimidated by some of the out of bounds movement. I actually learned how to play GT Space Time on stream at a marathon I did with Idol. The whole thing was like after we did the Chozo challenge, the incentive run was GT Space Time. So I literally learned the category on stream after I finished the Chozo challenge, and I was able to do it. But it was, it's really, really cool. And I just like the variety and just the really weird stuff we're going to see. And this is a category that's like on my bucket list. But like every other Super Metroid player who plays a lot of categories, I got like 300 things I have to do first before I before I take this one on.
That's right. By the way, you can see it coming off the ship, and now again with that front-facing sprite, on this custom sprite, that golden chorizo face there on the front of Samus's visor, really really cool. I like the little shout outs to GCC everywhere.
It's kind of funny. I actually did not realize that it was called Defeat Mother Brain. For some reason, I thought this category was called Destroy Mother Brain, which, it just seemed very insulting to Mother Brain in a very positive way.
Yeah, it just depends how aggressive you are in the fight, I guess. The end result is
Can we rename the category? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there you go. You see it again. Really, really cool looking sprite. I love that a lot. That's neat. And a cool call out to our good friend GCC. Yeah, so we're gonna see is what looks a lot like a traditional GT code, either classic or space time run, pretty much through Lava Dive. I do know that for this specific run, we're going to be getting a bootless, 2-tank bootless Lava Dive. So we will actually kill Kraid and pick up the Varia suit. Then we'll take our second energy tank from Kraid's closet. Of course, now if you see the world record for these GT categories, we're now doing 1-tank bootless Lava Dive, as if 2-tank wasn't hard enough. And so we're going to see it.
You started off 2-tank was hard with high jump boots, and and it's like insane the level of play we're getting in these categories, but it also shows the diversity. Like, you can kind of baby step your way through these categories. So if they're a little bit intimidating, there's a lot of different ways you can play it. It's just a matter of how fast you want to go and whether you want to live or die.
Exactly, exactly. I think that's as we often say in these sorts of showcases, it's one of the beautiful things about Super Metroid. Extremely diverse game, and there's a lot of different ways to have accessibility to all of these different cool categories.
Yeah, it's like every other Super Metroid category, that we see. We're doing this whole BT to early supers. It's not much too exciting here. It is. It's like GT Classic, pretty much, right? All the way to the lava dive.
Yeah, so you'll have the equivalent of like a bootless two tank bootless GT Classic up until and through the green gate glitch after lava dive, and then you're gonna enter and generate the GT code. Just as you would in any other GT category. Worth pointing out, by the way, that it's not a glitch. I think maybe we've said this a couple times before. It's right. It's just
It's a code.
it,
It's a debug code.
yeah, it's just a debug code in there. You hold those 4 face buttons when you do that door transition. You hit that 26th frame and hold those 4 face buttons, and then, right as people have explained already, you get those. You get all of those items: the 100 missiles, 20 supers, and 20 power bombs, plus all the items. And then, of course, you have to go in there and you've got to turn off usually spacer or plasma so you don't crash the game, since all 5 beams are auto-selected, which you're not normally able to do. But if you turn off wave beam instead, then you can actually generate a space-time beam, and you can do some really wild off-screen stuff to generate, essentially touching certain transition blocks in certain places to warp around the planet. And just sort of depending on if you're trying to trigger the end sequence or if you're trying to break into Turian, we use sort of different transition blocks going in different directions.
MM2 getting a very lucky missile drop right there. Those Zelas are not known for dropping missiles when you really need it if you're not at 99 energy. So that's a good way right there. Just your normal Super Metroid type stuff. I think it's pretty cool when you disable wave after you do the GT code and you're trying to activate it, trying to charge up your beam, switch to supers. I don't know, there's a little bit more going on than just going in there, doing the code and turning on a beam. That's the really marquee part of the run. I can't wait to see. There's a little different setup with each category, isn't there?
For which part specifically? There's a couple sections there.
Like
Sorry,
when you get to GT, you activate the code and then you charge your beam, turn and do the super missile and more.
Yeah, so there's we'll sort of try to walk people through it as best as we can, but there's essentially 2 initial transitions that you have to hit, and then a third one that sends you either to the tube to the right of Parlor, or the right of landing site, or into Parlor. The first 2 rooms are pretty much the same in any category that tries to use space-time there to exit GT's room. It's pretty lenient. You won't really get a sense of how lenient it is, but it's actually not that difficult. The thing that's actually difficult, if you're running this on sort of just OEM console, is that I'm not the right person to explain this with a great deal of technicality, but essentially when you use space-time, it's pulling these open bus reads, and if it returns a number that's non-zero, then the game crashes. And that's possible on console, but the way that like SNES 9X and one of the other ones, I always forget which one, the way those emulators work, they sort of don't do correct emulation, and you always draw 0 from that open bus read, and so the game will never crash on a GT space-time beam. What Idle actually put together was a stabilizing firmware for our FX pack, so that we can actually, without touching the game code itself, we can just run on console with a stable firmware patch that essentially forces that open bus read to always return 0, stabilizing it. Because otherwise, if you go back and look at some of Zost's, for example, old grinds in the GT Spacetime category, you might get like 1 good run out of 10 or something like that, which is it can be pretty miserable. So this is a pretty interesting fix from Idle, and it's actually really nice for people on console who now don't have to worry about the instability that the folks on emulator don't have.
Yeah, anybody that's played on emulator and console know that there's a very big difference. So you don't want to, ruin your movement and go to, well, I'll do an emulator for this category because it's not going to crash. Your movement's going to be all hecked up. It just doesn't play the same way. So it's kind of nice that be able to create like a stabilizer for like the Super Nintendo console. I'm so blown away by the technology that like people take like a 31-year-old game and just look what we can do with it. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's remarkable that we continue to learn new things about this game all the time. And I think that's a nice thing to highlight on a day like today. Obviously, this is the GCC Memorial, and GCC was an individual who was fascinated with just the inner workings and the depths of strangeness that are buried in this incredible game that we all love so much. And so I think it's just a nice thing to point out just how deep this game really is, how much cool stuff there is that we already learned. Who knows what cool stuff we might still learn. And that was really sort of the focus of GCC in the community. And we always valued that part of him. So here we go. We're killing Kraid. Got our Varia suit so we can actually execute this lava dive with sufficient health to survive. We'll get this second E-tank. The only real difference here between a normal GT Classic run with the Spacetime or Defeat Mother Brain, in this case we're doing Defeat Mother Brain. The only difference here, up to this point, practically speaking, is you did not see MM2 actually power bomb the tube open going to Meridia, because we're not going to be going back to Meridia. In GT Code, GT Classic, you actually have to go in there and kill Dragon and kill all 4 of the bosses. But here, in this category, we're just going to forget about any of the other bosses. We're going to do some wild and wacky stuff to essentially force our way into Turian, and then we don't have to defeat anyone other than Kraid.
I am really, really excited for Bootless. Bootless Lava Dive is really, really great. And in these GT categories, there are so many different ways that you can approach the Lava Dive. This one being one that you'd see in GT Classic, and one here from really, really strong runners. You get to do this bomb jump here that you see in like low ice because you don't have high jump boots. Yeah, very, very nicely done. One shot there. MM2 is really phenomenal at this game. And some of the runners, or some of the people in chat, have pointed out really, really nice gameplay here, and doing an excellent job showcasing how this category is played. Now, setting up the bootless dive, the really interesting thing about it is that you have to take intentional damage in addition to the damage you're already taking being in the lava. So, and you have to know what a Kago is, or at least how to do it. You have to time a flame. You have a very limited window of time to do that. There's like 63 things going on at one time, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it should be great. There's some added complexity specifically with bootless. You can make this setup totally standardized, I think a little bit easier with the high jump boots on. Usually if you decide to do the faster bounce into the room, it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where you're going to bounce on this bootless lava dive. And so you have to pay very close attention to where you bounce coming up here, because if you bounce in a certain place, usually it's fine to just continue flying down and morph. If you don't, you might not generate a flame, and you really need to manage this flame from this Fune. Is it a Fune?
No, wait. Patterns too, like a fast flame pattern, a slower flame pattern. I know that there's, depending on how you enter the door or when you enter the door, it could be a slightly different pattern.
It has to do with when Samus pulls them on screen.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really excellently
done. Gamer.
That was the better entrance there. Sometimes you have to break out a spin early and slow yourself down further to make sure that you don't go by the Fune too quickly. MM2 got sort of a more favorable bounce and was able to unmorph later, and that sped up that room a little bit, and he really executed that beautifully too. Yeah, there's no eye in Fune. That's how I always remember it too. I just couldn't remember if the things in that room had eyes or not. Okay, so we got our safety save in, and we did farm up to full, which is great. So we'll have 5 shots at this, and we have our backup save just in case. And we're just about getting in there.
One of the most annoying tricks in any category. Look at that.
That looked pretty good. That actually might have been the 2-frame window. There's a certain way to do that that spin break on the unmorph there when you're doing the, or not unmorph, the spin break on the jumping GGG there, and you can actually get a 2-frame window, and that's what it looked like.
Here comes the magic.
Yeah, so here what we're going to see is a charge shot, and then if you select supers, you'll see it again in this room. If you do a charge shot and hold it, and you select supers, then when you shoot a super, it essentially charges the effect or saves the effect of GT Spacetime Beam, and you can fire a super to trigger the Spacetime effect. Okay, so MM2 just rolled off this platform here. Little bit too far down, it looked like he got. There's sort of 2 blocks there. So things are going a little faster than it's easy to explain. But there's 2 blocks down there when you're off screen in that upper part near the gauntlet entrance. And essentially, MM2 hit the one that was a little bit lower, and so went into that tube that's to the right of landing site. Wanted to actually be slightly higher, ideally, and that puts you straight into Parlor for some additional off-screen movement, out-of-bounds movement. But he did it excellently well, and it's just a small time loss. The fact that you the fact that you actually have to go across from tube is not really a big deal. And here we'll have our final charge shot saved into a super. You allow Samus to fall 2 screens, and then you use grapple to put yourself in a particular position where you can then grapple at an angle up. I don't know how that last part works. I don't know why the grapple beam, it grabs something off screen and it forces you into essentially one of those like angled grapple poses, and then it forces you into some transition block and you break into Turian. I was talking to MM2 about it before the run. He actually didn't know either exactly why that worked, so I'd be very happy if anyone could explain it. I was not able to find any information about that. Almost feels like we should have that whole section on that whole section on replay and be able to actually walk folks through it, because it just happens so quickly, right? Like you do the 1 warp out of GT's room, then you do the 2nd warp from the screw attack room, which takes you to landing site, and then you do your final warp over to, in this case we did the tube, normally we would go to Parlor, and then you just get over here, break into Turian, and sort of Bob's your uncle. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Zosti. Cot and I don't know this. It's Unfair. Actually, that's a name that I'm not familiar with, and I probably should be. I didn't realize that Cot worked with somebody else on that. That's super cool. All right, and so this is pretty much normal from here on out.
It's got to be tough dealing with those. Look at how good that skip is with all those graphical problems.
Yeah, those graphical glitches are pretty neat. It looks kind of silly, but it does make it a lot harder.
A heck of a good pace for this category too. MM2's cooking.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's been pretty excellent gameplay. Probably lost, I don't know, 30 seconds to the 2 saves or something like that. Didn't need to use either one of them.
I kind of want to play this category now. It's pretty much like, feels like GT Spacetime, just going left instead of right and shooting down in G4 rather than in remote.
Yeah, that's correct. Essentially, when you break into that tube there, when you do that 3rd warp from landing site to the tube, which is what MM2 did here, he ran to the left and went down to the G4 statue room. If you go to the right, which is the pre-mote room, you can actually set up a particular block that is able to sort of trigger the end sequence of the game, and that's where the GT Spacetime run would end. About 30 seconds after that, you just run back through that tube. And
we are seeing that later as a race, correct?
Is there GT Spacetime later? I completely forgot.
I believe so.
Yeah. So that's essentially, you trigger the end sequence there, and you get out of dodge. Here, you're finishing the game, again, I say as normal. I mean, technically everything you're doing is normal, but it looks
really good, let me tell you.
It looks completely ridiculous. As intended, obviously.
Did you see that? Looks like looked like she was blowing a super missile out of her head, but it was just a weird graphical goofball thing.
That was pretty neat. In the forced crouch pose there, we got we got a nice look at that giant profile head, and you get another one right there in that forced crouch, that frame where you'd be forced into a crouch normally as the baby comes on screen. You get that giant head from the sprite. That was pretty cool.
Can I tell you, Prof, this community really knows how to celebrate events and milestones. I mean, think of all the cool like marathon type stuff like this the community's done over the last like several years, mostly Zenny, but you know, this is pretty outstanding.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 30
what a
years of
fantastic
speed last
showcase.
year, right? I mean, this showcase now, and we've done a lot of really
And
wonderful
we know
things.
how to party. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, nice 2 cries there. I guess I didn't even think to call it out. Didn't even think to call it out. It's just become for me so standard now, 2 cries. But it's pretty recent discovery. Essentially, what we're referring to is the number of seconds it takes for Mother Brain to sit down. Normally, it's about 7 seconds. The way that we used to manipulate Mother Brain got it down to about 4.5, and now you can sit her down in like 2.5 seconds. At the very end of that Mother Brain transition to Mother Brain 3 phase.
That is really wild.
Yeah, the 2 cries is standard now. I just expect to see it. I was gonna say the Stachio skip, but it's funny because MM2 is one of the top runners I think left that hasn't actually instituted that. Still does Boomer skip. Yeah, this is a great time. What is it? Is 21:33 the world record?
Something
Yeah,
like that. It is 21.
Yeah, the 21:39 is what's on the leaderboard, but MM2 corrected me this morning and let me know that I guess he must have done a run this morning or recently and got another world record, so it's 6 seconds faster now.
And you know what the funny thing is when he got that world record, 39 or whatever, I don't know, he thought it was like the most flawless run, got baby skip, nailed every trick, was super good. So this morning must have just been better. That's amazing. And just really, I mean, we always get solid gameplay out of MM2. So look at that graphic.
That's so ridiculous. What even?
If Parlor was not hard enough already, let's go here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we're getting a little animal
Boomerang,
save or
boomerang.
tease here. I'm not sure what we're getting. I don't know what MM2 has up his sleeve. But get your... What is he doing? Okay. I think we're getting the swag exit here. Womp womp. Okay. Yeah, it's everything's a little harder to see right now with the sprites. The screen's shaking, things look funny. It's not the normal sprite you play on. MM2 just having a little fun. Well, line up your GGs in chat, folks. MM2 put on a beautiful showcase today of that defeat Mother Brain category. And a pretty good time, too. It's going to be close to about 22 minutes. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to try this. This looks like a really fun category, and I don't think I have enough time on the board, you know, so get those categories down.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and honestly, like I think I would encourage folks to try it out. There's some tutorials out there on how to do some of that out of bounds movement. Idle Child in particular, Idle has a really nice one that's really, really good, and there's a couple others that are out there. I think Overfiend might even have one for some of the Spacetime stuff, specifically of the off-screen movement. So come on in.
I'm
and
partial to Idle because he taught me how to do that. So definitely, if an idiot like me can figure it out, you can run this game.
Well, yeah. So I mean, the point is we have a lot of resources, and we would encourage people to come on in and ask questions, join the Discord.
This is a tribute to GCC. So like, I had a brief acquaintance with GCC. Came into my stream a little bit when I was doing Max Suitless stuff, and a little bit when I was doing some GT Max a couple of years ago. Definitely really cool. Didn't really hang out with them that much, but you know, watched all the videos. Like, especially the one, I think the first one was with the third eye, or the, which that one Chorizo that has the missiles, 230 missiles, getting in there, and you see that the eye is awake, and just all the really great things that people in the community said about it. It was just a guy that just, even I noticed one day, I'm like, where's this guy been? It was everywhere for a minute. It was really sad to hear about it, and I got some friends in my Discord that were really close to GCC, so it's really amazing that y'all can do an event like this. And it's a shame that people can't see this kind of stuff and how they have touched people and in their lives while they're still alive. So hey, go hug your friends, hug people that need it. Tell people how much they matter to you. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Kev. It's one of the things that I love about this community, especially when we get together for events like today, or even better when we get together live in person. It's a beautiful community. We lift each other up, and I always take a special point when we do meet up to let people know. I mean, like, you and I sharing coffee and whatever meal over breakfast together at one of the events. It brings people closer. We got a lot of good folks in this community. GCC was one of them for sure. And I really echo your sentiments, Kev. Tell the people that you love that you do, and value the time that we have here. It's a beautiful community, and I'm glad that we can have this event in honor of GCC. So check out his YouTube channel. Go back if you haven't seen some of those old videos. They're really incredible. A lot of really, really cool stuff in there. And as I think Nada was pointing out in the previous broadcast, made the sort of glitch side of Super Metroid a lot more accessible to a lot of people, and brought a lot of attention to our game. I mean, I think his top video has more than 500,000 views on YouTube. So just, take a look at someone who's doing a great thing, right, to help put our community forward.
I can't wait to get on with the puzzles. Like, that's the part we've talked about glitches, but we haven't talked about how GCC was into puzzles. And you want to talk about like fascinating puzzles? Like, I remember when Fat Scott was doing a GCC puzzle. I remember watching that stream, and MM2 definitely speak. I don't need to say anything. I'll be on later, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, MM2, GG's.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to interrupt y'all. Y'all get to say stuff too, but obviously thanks to y'all for doing comms for this. But yeah, as far as GCC goes, I always liked watching his puzzles, trying to put my mind to them. I made a low optimization tool assisted demonstration for one of them. I think two actually. And some of them made him like a little bit into his YouTube videos. But I don't know, it was just great to see someone so new to the community, but so invested in learning more about the game that we all love, and just contributing to the general knowledge, and just sharing that, Super Metroid is a great game, and there's so many broken things about it, and you too can learn them. And just in addition to all that, being an excellent person that we all got to share community with. So as much as I'm sad to hear that he's gone, it is good to know that it's better to know than to not know, I suppose. But obviously it's still a terrible tragedy, but that's how it is, and we're all glad to have known him. So thanks to Zenny for letting me do this, and thanks to Prof Kev for helping out with comms, and good luck to everybody. I'm excited for Erica's Exact Sciences puzzle showcase next. So yeah.
Yep, so stay tuned, folks. We're going to shut her down here. Kev, thanks so much for joining me in the commentary booth. It was a lot of fun, as always. Thanks to MM2 for putting on an excellent show, and thanks to Zenny and friends for putting this one on. It was a lot of fun taking you through the action today. Again, I'm Professor School, and stay tuned. We'll have Exact Science coming at you in just a second with a puzzle showcase.